I'll start again. Welcome to our fine dining cooking class. We're going to start off with Emma. Emma, are you ready to go? If I come round and you can explain what you're
Yep,
going to do.
I'm ready to go.
There you go.
Can you hear
You're
me all
on,
right?
and we
Can
can
you hear
hear
me all
you.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Okay, so welcome to the Fine Dining Zoom, everybody. It's great to have you with us tonight, and we're looking forward to showing you how fine dining is all about precision, texture, and confidence. It doesn't have to be complicated, but obviously, we're all making a special effort to make to go that bit further and get an extra techniques and an extra different delicious meal. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the recipe later because we've got some cooking times that we need to wait for tonight. But as Jane said, my recipe is Parmesan crust lamb cutlets with creamed spinach and smashed spuds. And what I'm going to show you tonight is how easy it is to cook everything on the single source heat um, from the Thermomix. So I'm going to steam the potatoes. They're going to go into the bowl. Let's pop those in there. There's water already in the bowl there. And I'm
Are
going to
those new
steam.
potatoes, Emma?
They are indeed, they're waxy new potatoes. And so the idea is they will smash with the back of the spoon. They'll crush, but they won't vaporize like a floury potato would. So we're not doing roasted potatoes, but we're just going to smash them gently, and then I'm going to air fry them actually tonight because my frying pan will be used to finish off the lamb cutlets. So the potatoes go into the bowl and into the bottom of the varoma. There's 600 grams of water already in the varoma, and then I'm just going to show you the cutlets here. I asked the butcher to trim them so that you've got the bone, the sort of the handle, and the meat has relaxed because they're finely trimmed, but they haven't been trimmed of um, of the uh, of the sinew and the normal outer of the meat that you would normally get because I want to be able to have a delicious meal out of this. But they have been brushed lightly with a good quality honey. Good quality honey, I'm emphasizing because the honey that you see in the supermarkets has often been sweetened with sugar or it's been sugar syrups have been added to it. So you're just looking to coat the surface of the meat with the honey just to give it a gentle glaze. It's not about adding sweetness, but it's just so that it'll give it a gentle sweetness and protective layer. So during the steaming, the nutrients will be preserved. It's going to steam for 12 minutes. I'm going to keep it warm, finish the potatoes off, and then I'll get those air frying. So that's the idea, to cook the meat very gently, first of all, and the Thermomix does that perfectly. It controls the temperature and the amount of steam, so you get an even finish on the meat. So the meat is going to go on top of the bowl there, and then I'm going to put the lid on like that. And I can talk to you more about the recipe a little later on. I know we're just keen to get things moving, so I can turn that on in the background and we can move on to Sarah, if that's
Thanks,
okay.
Emma. I'm going to come to you now, Sarah. If you unmute yourself, which I think you've done, here we go. Are you ready, Sarah?
Yeah, I'm ready.
So,
Okay.
what are you up to?
Well, I'm going to make a mushroom cappuccino, which, sometimes when you go to a really smart restaurant and they do an amuse-bouche, well, often the amuse-bouche they do is a little tiny soup, very intense. And I often ask them, I've had it a few times with tomatoey ones, a mushroomy one, and I always say to them, oh, did you make this in your Thermomix? And they usually say yes. In fact, they always say yes, because nothing beats the power of the Thermomix for getting the soup silky smooth. I think restaurants that don't have it have to sieve them if they want a really fine soup. So it makes sense to use the Thermomix for your soups. So it's mushroom cappuccino because it's tiny and it's going to look like a cappuccino. When you come back at the end, you'll see me serve it up. So it's pretty quick. My headphones. So we're going to put in 10 grams of porcini mushrooms. Okay, there
So
you
is
go.
that dried? Are they dried mushrooms,
Yeah,
Sarah?
these are the dried mushrooms, the cook's ingredients from Waitrose. And we're going to chop them. So a bit like when you grate your parmesan.
So that's going to give a real intense flavour. You can, another great idea with those dried mushrooms is to blend them in the Thermomix, and then you've got like a mushroom dust, which will elevate any kind of meal, whether it's a mushroom risotto or a mushroom soup. You can sort of just sprinkle the mushroom dust or on top, but it does just make a really intense flavour. Are you still blending? I don't know.
I am. I've got about 28 seconds left. And you've actually stolen my thunder, Jane, because it is the dust that we're going to use at the end. But we also need the big bit to go into this soup. You can see it frosting here.
And you can see, I mean, you can hear the fact that you can actually hear Sarah over the blend. The TM7 is so much quieter. You can see the dust coming out there of the top of the TM7. But the motor on the TM7 is significantly quieter than it is on the TM6. We wouldn't be able to talk over the TM6 when we were doing these Zooms.
It is because I've made this twice, I think. The first time I made it, I had some guests over, and I was rather hoping that they might actually buy a Thermomix. And unfortunately, it cooks for 8 minutes at a really high temperature, and it was with my TM6, and it was so noisy. I think that put them off a bit. So no sale that time. So I'm now just taking the dust out, and I'm going to sieve it. But I don't want to actually sieve too much because you're collecting the porcini dust for the end product, which will be like the cocoa on the cappuccino. So set it aside and then put the coarse, excuse me, Pete, put the coarse bit into another bowl. Okay, so you can see this is a little bit coarser. It probably would have gone through the sieve, but I didn't want too much. In fact, I'm going to take a teaspoon out because it's so powerful. It's already fine. And I only need a tiny bit to go on top of its 8 portions. So I just need 8 little sprinkles. So I don't want to overdo it because we want all that lovely flavour actually in the soup. So without cleaning the mixing bowl, which is always handy, we're going to put in 60 grams of a shallot. I like the banana ones, 53. We'll pop a little bit more in. Oops, next. And then we're just going to chop this quickly.
If anybody has their favourite dinner party recipes, please do share them in the chat. We'll go through a few later on, but would really like to see what everybody else is cooking. I think it's great to be able to sort of share they're all tried and tested, but ones that our own community have tried. So do share the links in the chat. And that reminds me, I'll share this link from Sarah's.
Okay, so while this is cooking, just for 3 minutes, I'm going to talk about the collection. I put the butter in. Thank you. You just, oh, wrong lid. That was my 6th lid. Won't fit on the 7th. Okay, so we're just going to cook this now for 3 minutes. And then, see, it's so quiet, you don't even hear it start. So this mushroom cappuccino, I love with the recipe, you probably can't see this very clearly, but when you go to the bottom, it gives you some other things you might like. And because this is quite chefy and dinner party, you've got things like crepe Suzette, seafood bisque, prawn wasabi, duck confit, gougere puffs, which I'm going to talk about later on when I look at the profiteroles. But this mushroom cappuccino was featured in Entertaining with Danny Vallant. She's Australian, and there's 95 recipes in it. So it really is worth exploring all the collections. And when I'm looking through this, I really like the sound of the Bloody Maria, which was very fancy and a lot more complicated than a Bloody Mary, but looked good. Sunny Gazpacho. What were the other things? There were quite a few that I saved to my canapé collection. Oh, cherry margarita. I'm picking out all the all the alcoholic things. That sounded really delicious. So yeah, so this it's always good to look at the collections of something that you like because it will give you lots of other extra ideas. And I saw some lovely little, they were tomato, it's like a little sort of, was it? I don't know what you call it, but a little stack of tomato with lots of different ingredients in, which you'd serve with crusty bread. It looks so pretty. So how are we doing? 1 minute 33 left. Potted baby vegetables, they look good fun. Oh, and the cheese puffs with honeyed
Mm.
cheese, which you can stuff the gougères, which I'm making at the end. You can stuff those with the honeyed goat's cheese, which I just think I haven't tried it, but I just think it would be delicious. So once this is finished cooking, let's see what the next step is.
So just recap, you've just got your shallots in there sauteing away, is it?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
butter. Yeah, with the butter.
with butter.
That's it. I've done the mushrooms, so I've got my mushroom dust. I've also got the coarse mushrooms, which are going to go in a minute, and I mustn't mix them up. Where's my mushroom dust gone? Yeah, where's my mushroom dust gone?
To the right.
Oh, I've lost it. Oh no, here it is. It's got my measuring spoons in it. God. The trouble is, this requires sherry, and I hadn't got any sherry, so I had to go and buy a bottle. And I'd forgotten how delicious sherry was. So I have had a couple. There we go. That's my mushroom dust. So I'm putting that aside for the end. 20 seconds left, and then we're just going to do the last step, which is very quick. And then you will leave me while this cooks away for 8 minutes.
So with your Cookidoo collections, Emma, thanks for sharing all those recipes. That's brilliant. When you click on the recipe, just create all these collections because there are so many recipes on Cookidoo that you can become a bit overwhelmed or you can't, suddenly you find one time, then you go back and, your filters have changed and you can't find them. So I really recommend saving all of the recipes that take your fancy. I've sort of got a family friendly one and then I've got a dinner party one. And Sarah's talking about her canapes or her cocktails. Just create as many collections as you can so you don't lose these recipes because there are just so many wonderful recipes. And I think even if you bookmark them, I think you're limited on how many you can bookmark, but then you end up with too many bookmarks that you lose them in there. So definitely create different collections and you can save collections. So you can save that Danny Valent one, which I'm going to go and look at after this. So save the collections, and then obviously they're on your Thermomix. So even if your phone batteries run out or something, they are on your Thermomix to use at any time.
Right, so I've got my mushrooms in there, about 550 grams. I used the chestnut mushrooms. I thought they'd be a little bit stronger in taste than the ordinary button mushrooms. It said you could use either. Now, who watching hasn't made their vegetable stock paste? Because honestly, it's such an essential. You use it in so many recipes. Here, it's just calling for a teaspoon. So we're just popping that in. I think it was the first thing I made in my Thermomix, and it is just amazing. We're going to add now 200 grams of pouring whipping cream. So here we go. We're saving some back for the end. So I think this pot is 250, sorry, maybe even 300. There we go. And a little bit of water, 100 grams of water. More of that. And the sherry, if there's any left. So,
Love your honesty, Sarah.
oh dear. Right, 1 tablespoon.
And with all these recipes, isn't it? The recipes tried and tested, they're fantastic, but you can really elevate. You've done it again, wrong lid.
Oh
You can
God,
really
yes.
elevate depending on the ingredients. So you go fancy mushrooms, go, full on stock paste, go for a really nice sherry, go for really good stock and that sort of stuff. And you will just get that extra mile out of these recipes, if it is for a special occasion. So that's now cooking, is it, Sarah?
It is, and it's so quiet compared to doing it in the TM6. I could have actually probably sold a Thermomix if I'd had the TM7 when I cooked this last time.
Ah,
Okay,
right.
so I'll see you later.
Thanks, Sarah. So I think what we'll do is we'll come back to me, and I'm going to talk about the sous vide duck's breast. Sous vide is a bit of a faff, but I think for something like this fine dining, it's worth it, especially for duck's breast. Again, we did this recipe when Eleanor and I did our cooking class in Aylesbury, and I think duck is something I personally find really quite hard to cook well, to get it tender and to keep it pink and to get a crispy skin. So I think for something like this, I might not sous vide my asparagus and things like that because it's a quick, sous vide salmon. The steaming of all of that is so good. But I would definitely recommend sous videing duck's breast because you get the perfect results. So what I did earlier is I just had two duck breasts, so that they're little, and I used my vacuum sealer. So I cut the plastic according to the size of the duck breast, and then used, I've just got a bog standard vacuum sealer. It's Silvercrest. I got it a few years ago from Amazon, and it was less than £50, and it's working nicely. What it does, and it's great even for storing things in the freezer. So if you bought a load of steak, we often will go to Costco, get a load of steaks. We can individually vacuum pack them, pop them in the freezer, or you could even sous vide things and then pop them in the freezer and then bring them back. So the vacuum sealer is quite a good investment. There is also a Thermomix vacuum sealer, a whole sort of sous vide kind of package, I think, with the bags, with this vacuum sealer, but it is more expensive. So don't feel you have to splash out on that. And what this does, seals the plastic. So you get the seal across there, and then it sucks out the air, and then you seal it again. You don't have to use this. You can very easily use a good quality plastic Ziploc bag. And if you get your plastic bag, put the duck breast inside, and then plunge it into a bowl of water, keeping the opening out of the water, and then use that water in the bowl to squeeze out the air, and then Ziploc it. That will work brilliantly as well. So don't feel, if you're gonna do this once a year, don't go out and spend the money on the vacuum sealer. Now the recipe I'm going to do, what I think I'll do is I'm gonna bring you down to my camera down here, so you can see. I've actually got three different recipes. I'm only doing one. I'm only doing the sous vide duck breast. But just to show you how you can get different parts of recipes and use them for different things. So this is the recipe for the sous vide duck breast. And what I am going to do, it's got all sorts of in this recipe with the orange sabaglione and I don't want to make any of that. So if I scroll through, hopefully you can see my screen well enough. And where you want to start the recipe from, so if I wanted to do the zabaglione, I would touch that step number 5 there and it would take me to there. I want to start from the sous vide, so it happens to be step 1, but if it wasn't, hopefully you get the idea. And I'm just going to talk you through this. So basically you fill up your mixing jug with water. It says 1.8 litres of water, so it's almost full. You add 30 grams of freshly squeezed lemon juice. That's about half a lemon, and you need the ascorbic acid basically to stop any rusting, because this is going to be cooking for an hour and a half. You then bring up to temperature. So the temperature for the sous vide duck is 62 degrees. And that's what is just so amazing with the Thermomix. Yes, it blends, it cooks, it sautés, but the precision of the temperature is just second to none. And if you look at a sous vide machine, you're talking another few £100. So when you know the cost of a Thermomix, you know you get great value if you use it for all these amazing things. It's going to bring it up to temperature, and it's set for 15 minutes. If you put in warm water to start off with, that would be a bit quicker. And then it explains how you put your duck breast into the plastic bags, which I've already done. You want to score the skin and then season it with salt and ground white pepper. Then you want to put some orange slices in, some of the zest of the orange, a garlic clove, a bit of a shallot, and a sprig of thyme, and a quarter of a teaspoon of peppercorns. And then you seal the bag. You then slowly submerge the bag in the water and making sure it's completely covered. What this recipe doesn't call for, but what I would suggest is to use your blade cover peeler to cover the blade, and then you can do more. This recipe talks about the using a simmering basket, but if I just show you, put the blade cover peeler in there, and then you could get at least 4 duck breasts in here at once. The recipe we're currently doing, we'll talk about using the simmering basket, but that's fine if you're only doing 2 duck breasts. If you want to do more, whoopsie daisy, then that's the way to go. So blade cover is in, and then imagine your duck breast is in there fully submerged, so you can see that fits in quite easily, full of water that's now up to temperature. Click on next, the bags go in. We're not using the simmering basket, we've used the blade cover peeler, and now you can see the settings. There's 1.5 hours, 62 degrees. So I obviously did this earlier because we don't have time to do it now. So this has been in the water bath for 1.5 hours. So 62 degrees is the temperature that you want for a nice pink duck breast. And so we know now that it's cooked perfectly. So you take it out, it's obviously hot, and then it says set bags aside for 10 minutes, remove duck and orange slices from the bag, pat dry with paper towels. I'm going to do this all shortly. But keep the meat juice in a jug. So we'll probably add that later. And now I'm going to fry the duck breast in a medium heat on a frying pan, and skin side down and frying for 7 to 10 minutes. So this is perfect now to get a nice sort of crispy skin on the duck breast, but we're not worrying about whether it's cooked all the way through because we know it's perfectly cooked. Turn it over in just a couple of minutes on the other side. You want to leave it to rest. It says for 2 minutes. I would leave it for longer if I was you. And then it's going on to the next part of the recipe, which we're not doing tonight. So all I'm going to do is just fry these off and I'll show them to you at the end. So whilst I haven't used the Thermomix tonight to show you, hopefully you still understand how amazing it is. Then what I would suggest, we did this before, and I love the blackberry sauce from this recipe, and I'll share these links if Emma hasn't done it already. But on here, the blackberry sauce is so simple, but is really quite impressive. So again, you just go down. I'm not doing the duck. I want the blackberry sauce, and all you do is go to that step, and it's basically blackberries and sugar, and then you cook it 5 minutes, and that is your sauce. The blackberries are whole, and you just then pour the sauce over your duck once it's ready. And then even with this recipe, there is a celeriac mash, but if we were doing fine dining, I prefer this recipe for the celeriac puree because it's a bit more indulgent, because when you look at the ingredients, it's celeriac and cream. So for something fancy, for me, this is what I would choose. And again, I'm just not doing the rest of the beef Wellington or the tart. It's pastry, mushroom. I'm not doing any of that. I just want the celeriac puree. So what I would do, I'm not doing it tonight, but just showing you how you can pick and choose from different recipes. I go straight to the step to show me how to do the celeriac. So celeriac, whipping cream, salt, and pepper, and then you let it go and you cook it. Super easy, and this can be done while you're resting your duck. So I'm going to get on with that. Oh, sorry, somebody's trying to get in. I am going to get on with that in the background. I'm going to fry off the duck, and what we'll do now is go to Eleanor, who's going to talk us through what she's doing. You all good, Els? You good?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Oh, sorry, something's just happened. Unmute, done that. Brilliant. Yes, I can say that Jane and I did the I can't speak, fine dining in person demo in the Aylesbury cooking studio. And that duck is fantastic. I will say that. It's absolutely terrific. It makes such a difference being able to do the sous vide. So I'm just on the simple bit. The end of the evening, we're serving coffee and let's have a little treat to go with the coffee. And now, as Jane says, I've made these Florentines once and I seem to be making them all the time. They are absolutely delicious. So I'm just going to show you they're easy, they're not difficult to do. The one thing I'd say to you is I've been using up leftover nuts and fruit that I had at Christmas time. You don't need to stick entirely to the recipe, just use whatever's there in your cupboard. And actually, because I've done these several times now, I'm using less fruit and more nuts actually, because I seem to think that they taste a little bit better, they're easier to come together. But obviously, that's just me tweaking with the recipes. So, first things first, I've actually put my oven on to 180 degrees. Once they're done here, and you make your little discs of Florentines. They go into the oven only for about 10 minutes. They're quick. And I've lined my tray here with my baking paper. So the first thing I'm going to do is put my nuts in, and we're going to make fairly fine dust. So it says pistachio nuts 50 grams. I didn't have 50 grams. I've had some, but I've just added some extra in with some almonds. So in they go. Walnuts 30 grams. So in they go. And genuinely, I keep changing the nuts and what I've been putting in, and that really hasn't made a difference to this. And press next. And then I'm just going to chop. It's only 3 seconds, so don't worry, but I'm just going to chop. You might lose me for 3 seconds. Brilliant. So that was speed 7. So if I just show you what we've got out of that. It's not quite a fine dust, but it's just enough. And that's going to be effectively the mix that binds your Florentines together. So it's asking me to transfer that to a bowl and just leave to one side. And there's no need to wash the bowl out at this stage. Put it straight back on there. And then we're just going to make the base, which is butter, demerara sugar, double cream, and a bit of salt. And it's tiny proportions. It's not huge amounts. So firstly, unsalted butter is 75 grams. I should have that very moist. Sorry, it's got a bit sticky. In that goes. And then same amount of sugar, 75 grams as well. So in that goes. And I would use the demerara sugar here because I think actually it gives it that slightly nutty flavour when you do it. That's all in. And then the cream, I actually haven't got any double cream with me, but I've got some single cream that I'd whipped at the weekend for a dinner party that I had. So I'm just going to use that. And you really don't need very much of this. It's just 15 grams, which is bang on. So just a tiny amount. And then a tiny pinch of salt as well. So in that goes like that. And then we're going to press next. The lid goes on. And Jane, you can leave me if you want to. This just melts now for 3 minutes. Actually, I'll tell you what, stay with me if you don't mind. It's up to you. So once we've made this mixture, we're going to make our little medallions and we're going to bake them in the oven for 10 minutes. Now, I've just been making these, and to be honest, I quite like them without the chocolate on. So they just come out with these little discs like this. I don't know if you can see those. They're quite chewy. They're very nice. And I've been just making them without the chocolate. However, the next stage of the recipe, and I'm very lucky that I've got 2 bowls here. I know not many people have, and you'd have to wash your bowl once the cooking's done. But you put your chocolate in here, it was 120 grams, and they've just grated, and I've done that. I don't know if you can see that very easily in this light, it's not very clear, but that's grated chocolate. And that's going to melt, which is fine. We all know that the Thermomix can do that. But what I've then done is I've actually just got a little bit of a baking sheet. I've put it on my counter and I've just tipped the chocolate out onto that. So it's like a big mound of melted chocolate. It's delicious. And then I've been taking my Florentines. Now, obviously, one side is flat and one side has got the lumpy, nice bits on. So it's the flat side that you want to get the chocolate on. And I've literally just been placing it onto the chocolate, giving it a little bit of a jizz, and it's just been coating it very beautifully. And actually, in the recipe, you might want to use a fork just to make some lines, or you might just have a little bit of a spatula and you can make some lines like that. So you can actually make them look quite pretty. The other thing is, if you're not so keen on the sort of chocolate, I find it a bit overwhelming, is just do half. Equally, tastes delicious, but it just gives you a bit. But when I've been serving them with coffee, I've basically done a half and half mix. So some with, some without. And they've gone down extraordinarily well, actually, I have to say. So yeah, that sums me up, Jane, because it is that easy.
They are so good. They are so good. So highly recommend you give those a go. They're perfect for the end of the night, aren't they? Well,
Really,
maybe
yeah.
start of the end of the night. Right, I'm going to come back maybe to Emma or Sarah. Who's ready? Give me a thumbs up if you are ready for me to come back. Sarah, are you good? Maybe Emma? I'll just check in with Emma. How you do?
Yeah, no problem. You can come back to me.
Cool. Right, you're
Have
on.
you got me? Have you got
Oh,
me on the camera?
yeah.
Okay, so you used your blade cover peeler during the you've got it on during the sous videing of your duck breasts, and I used my blade cover peeler as a peeler. So I just used it to clean the new potatoes before I started to steam them. So I just did it for about 20 seconds, and I left a lot of the skin on. And these waxy potatoes have now steamed for 21 minutes, and they're a little bit hard to smash with the back of my spoon, because it really depends what type of potatoes you're using. And this recipe is from the Danny Valent collection that Sarah was talking about earlier. I love the things in the recipes in that collection, and I can feel that these really sophisticated, chefs love waxy potatoes for exactly this particular job. I can feel that they're still a little bit firm, so I'm cutting them with the edge of the spoon rather than pressing them. But I've got them in a bowl which has got about a spoonful of duck fat in. So we're pushing the boat out tonight. We're using super ingredients for a special meal, and I'm just coating them as I smash them and cut them in here. But haven't cut them too much. So really, I can feel that they're not quite cooked, but they're going to go into the air fryer for about 12 minutes, which is about the time that you'd pan fry them for. But I'm putting them in the air fryer because I quite often just use it for potatoes, actually. It's just really great for finishing things off or making quick wedges. So these are just going to go into the silicone tray inside the air fryer tray, and I'm going to pop those on to cook. And I can also show you the creamed spinach if you'd like me to show you that now. Jane, we're ready to go with that. I just need to pop this into the air fryer and set it going.
While you do that, do you want to come back to me? And I've just got my mix ready, so I can just show you how to put.
Yeah, that would be great.
I'm good too.
Brilliant. Sorry, well done. Thank you. So I've melted those lovely ingredients, the butter, sugar, and cream. I've then added in my chopped fruit, cranberries, which is very much, again, your choice of what you want. Put in my reserved nuts and mixed it for 10 seconds, and that's what I've got. So I found that these spread quite readily when you put them in the oven. So what I've been doing is just getting a little tablespoon size spoon and just getting a little bit of the mix like this. And you just you can roll it, you can play around with the dough. It's not too sticky, it's quite warm. If you can see that there. But just put that on the tray. And then I've just been with my fingers flattening it down a bit, making it into a nice shape, making sure that there's a fairly even amount of fruit on each one. And then I can carry on doing that, but then they just literally go in the oven for 8 to 10 minutes. Don't overcook them. Those are the ones I've slightly overcooked, which is why I've got them left over from the other day, but they're delicious. So can you see that, Jane? I don't know if you can see.
Neat.
Yeah.
There we go.
Ah,
Thank you. Sarah,
okay.
back to you now, and then Emma will come back to you to finish your spinach. Oh, hello.
Oh, sorry, just reverse the camera. We don't want to. There we go. Okay, can you see me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so, oops. Here is the soup. I blended it. The last step before you blend it is to put in a teaspoon of truffle oil. But when I looked at my truffle oil, it was 1920, no, not, not 1922, 2022. So I decided, and it also, I think it had lost all its flavour. I did Google it, and I think it is something that can go off, unlike other oils. So I didn't know what to do. I went to the supermarket. My nearest supermarket didn't have any truffle oil. So I had this left over from Christmas. It's a Stilton, which has been flavoured with truffle and honey. So I thought, well, we need that bit of truffle. So I just popped a large teaspoon of that in and then blended it for a minute. So I poured it out now. And I have to say, it's almost like a mousse. If you wanted it thinner, you could add more water. But it is so silky smooth. It's honestly, it's delicious. So having done that, I'm now going to, where's my little truffle dust? Because I'm all over the place. I decanted it. Where? No, it isn't. I put it into a little, oh, here it is. Right. Sorry, you know, I'm always a little bit chaotic. So this is my truffle dust. And first of all, I'm going to just put a little bit of cream on the top. So think of it like an Irish coffee or a cappuccino. So a little bit of cream on the top. And I think that's what's so special about this. It's not so much the soup, because that is fairly basic. If I was doing this again, I would probably whip the cream so it just held its shape a little bit. And then just going to dust it, oops, with a little bit of the truffle.
Amazing. And it's about indulgence, isn't it? So small portions, but super thick, super rich.
Yeah, and it really is delicious. And I think it's really impressive for a dinner party. Yeah, and especially if you can do it one like this, where you get the layers. So you've got the sort of coffee layer with the cream on top, and then the cocoa or the truffle powder. So yeah, and a nice way, because nobody ever uses these little coffee cups anymore, do they? So it's
I
quite nice to get them out.
Yeah, I think they look really classy. We were talking about them today as well in one of our meetings, and I think, I might be scouring around a few charity shops to get some really nice old teacups and coffee cups for things like this, or even a lemon posset, or you can make some really glam starters, canapes, or puddings.
You
Brilliant.
can. Yeah. So you're going to come back to me later for the profiteroles, aren't you? Or I
Yes,
can do it now, whatever you like.
I'll go to Emma and we'll come back to you.
Ah,
Emma, coming to you now.
Lovely. Just unmuting now, checking that I'm unmuting. So I don't know if you've managed to see, but 200 grams was quite a mound of spinach on the Veroma tray, and I put it on for the last 4 minutes while the potatoes were cooking. So I've got perfectly and evenly wilted spinach in the tray here. And I'm just going to make the creamed spinach now. I've washed the bowl and dried it, and into the bowl goes all that lovely steamed spinach. And then I'm just going to follow the instructions here. I'm going to add 50 grams of pouring or whipping cream. So in it goes. We're just adding the cream and the butter to emulsify in the spinach when we blend it. I'm not doing it in the right order, so we need some salt to season it. be generous with that. It's only a couple of clicks on the grinder, on the grounds of the grinder. And then the same with the black pepper. And it also asks for ground nutmeg, and I've got one of those little grinders where you put a whole nutmeg in. So I'm just going to put some ground nutmeg in there. So we've got the whipping cream in there, the salt, the black pepper, and the ground nutmeg. And I'm going to just checking to see that I haven't missed the butter. So it's just cream in here, and I'm going to put the lid on with the lid cap. And go to the next step, and we're just going to cook that. We're just going to cook that for 2 minutes. So I've got the ingredients in there to make the creamed spinach, and the Thermomix just beats all other blenders for this. It'll be 2 operations of blending, but what you're looking for is an absolutely totally smooth, velvety, just a very soft texture. Chefs love to make sauces out of the vegetables, so that's effectively what you're doing here. And that's cooking in the background. So if you want to go to anybody else to do, I'll do the blend, and then you can come back to me a little later if you want to.
Lovely. Thanks, Emma. I think Sarah's ready, so we're going to pop back to Sarah. So hopefully everybody, you're getting lots of like little tidbits from everybody, just sort of understanding how you can adjust and what recipes we've enjoyed doing. Sarah, are you good? Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's put these on.
So tell us what you're up to now.
Oh, right. Might have to wait till the shuts up. Jackson, quiet. Yeah, so I decided to make profiteroles, and there's a bit of a story behind the profiteroles. If Jackson keeps barking, I'm going to put him out. Because when I before I bought the Thermomix, I went to a friend who had one, and I wasn't convinced because I thought, well, I'm a good cook, do I need one? But the last thing I'd had a bit of a failure with was choux pastry. So I said, well, can we make some choux pastry? And she said, yeah, fine. So I went along and I made cheese gougères, Emmental gougères, and of course they were perfect. And that was really what made it for me, and that's why I bought the Thermomix. And I haven't made it since. Anyway, so my pudding, my dessert, I decided to do profiteroles. And interestingly enough, the recipe in the book, which I followed for the actual pastry shell, is called profiteroles. But when I googled it, and they were filled with ice cream and then quite a loose sort of chocolate sauce. But for me, a profiterole is usually filled with cream or patissiere, and so I decided I would do that. And then I did a ganache. So I just looked for a ganache recipe to coat them. And apparently those are cream puffs. They're not profiteroles. So all those ones we see in Waitrose and Marks and Spencer's called profiteroles, they're actually cream puffs. So first of all, I made my pâtissière, which I hadn't made before. And here it is, the little bit that's left over from stuffing the profiteroles. We're sort of divided in this family. Some people like this. But I think retrospectively, I would have rather filled them with whipped cream, but that's just me personally. This is delicious, and I would like it inside a donut. That would be my idea of heaven. But it's so easy to make because it's the thicken recipe. So all you're doing is putting all your ingredients in, and then it goes straight to the thicken mode. And so the reason I didn't make the profiteroles in front of you tonight is they don't take long. You have to let the mixture, the I think it's called a penne, cool down before you add the eggs. So it's not ideal for a demo. So I made my profiteroles, which you will see later. And I thought just a few little useful tips, because for me, it's not the making them, because the Thermomix does that. It's actually the piping them. So that's the little bit I'm going to show you. But because we're a bit sick of profiteroles, because it made 24, and there's only 3 of us here, I'm going to use the same basic choux pastry recipe, but I've added Emmental, and I couldn't get the Emmental, so I've done Gruyere cheese and Parmesan to make a sort of a cheese gougere. One of the things that they recommend when you're making your profiteroles, and I always do a little bit of Googling and look at BBC Food and Mary Berry, just to get some ideas for fillings, pipings, etc. And I would suggest if you're making them, rather than use plain flour, use strong or use bread flour because it gives you a sort of stronger dough and a crispier finish. So I just use bread flour for these. That's going to shut down in a minute. So that's my pastier. As I said, very straightforward. The Thermomix made it for me, made the dough for me. So now I'm just ready to pipe it. Now, I haven't piped these, as I said, I've had my Thermomix for 4 years. So it's been 4 years since I last actually piped a profiterole or a gougere, which was interesting. But little tips, because I've done a few courses, and I'm not a fancy cook. I'm sort of substance, really, not style. But something is quite useful. Get the biggest bags you can get. I got a nice big roll of these bags from Amazon. If you get a small bag, it's just so difficult to get it all in. So these are a really good size. And then pop your nozzle in and then just use a glass to hold the bag because it makes it much easier. If you're trying to do it just freehand without the structure, it's quite difficult to get all the pastry in. And then once you've got it all in, bring it all down. Okay, so it's your right hand that does all the work. So I'm just going to twist that around. So that's the firm bit, and then your left hand just guides it. Now I have to say, as I go through this, they will get better because initially you're sort of, it's a bit of trial and error. Well, it is for me. So I made the mistake on Sunday when I made the profiteroles of piping and then lifting up, like if you're icing the top of a cake or a cupcake, and you sort of lift off, you go around. So with this, I'm going to avoid the lifting off. But the good thing is you're not going to see the result because they'll be in the oven. So to start with, I'm just going to do a nice firm bit down and then sort of walnut size and then just go around. So down and then leave a good space around. So I'm not going to do the whole tray. And to be honest, when you're doing the cheese gougères, it's less important than a profiterole to how they look. So I'm going to stop in a minute and finish those later. And then just a little tip, just with a wet finger, I'm just going to pat those down.
Little tails.
Little tails, get rid of those little tails. And then they're going to be sprinkled with more of my cheese mixture. And it makes about 25. I've halved the recipe. So they will go in the oven for about 20 minutes. And so now I have to say, they're not bad. That's the ones I made. I did a little stack. But I always think, they weren't perfectly round. They're not bad. If you use the ganache, a little tip, do it in 2 goes because I made the ganache, which was going to cover about 25 profiteroles. And by the time I got to the last sort of 10, it had started to set and it lost that lovely shiny shell that the initial ones have. So if you were doing the recipe that's on Cookidoo, you'd be filling them with ice cream, and then the sauce has got milk in it. This is just double cream, a little bit double cream and dark chocolate, whereas I think the one in Cookidoo has about 200 grams of milk. So it's going to be much more of a sort of a sauce rather than a ganache topping. You can put a hole in the bottom and pipe the filling up, but I found that they were so crisp inside that I could just cut them in half and pop the pâtissière in there rather than bother with, fancy piping inside. And you could just shape them with teaspoons if you didn't want to pipe them. But there's lots of good YouTube things you can look at which show you piping tips and tricks. So there we go. That's my profiteroles.
Amazing. Thank you, Sarah. They look yummy. And I think making profiteroles in a Thermomix is amazing. We did a lot of practicing last year when my son was doing GCSE food tech and had to make profiteroles and it was hard. But we got there. I'm going to just quickly show you my duck. So I'm just going to change camera here. So all I've done is I've just fried it off in a pan. It's been resting here for about 10, 15 minutes. And you just want to make sure that you get a sort of even caramelization on the skin. I just put in olive oil. What I would probably do is add a load of butter before serving, and then maybe you've got the blackberry sauce to go with it. But I'll just cut into that duck, and we'll just see what it's looking like to show you. So if I just take one of these pieces and just give it a little carve, can you see? Let me just, hopefully you can see, it's a really lovely pink color, and it is super, super tender. I think because it's had the sous vide, the fibers have broken down, it's made it tender, but we've still got the juiciness and the color. So I really, really highly recommend, if you're going to do duck, that you do it in the sous vide. Could you get that, my friend? Right. So that's the duck. Who am I coming back to? Shall I come back to you, Els or Emma? Els, you're leaning over, so you've got it.
Hey, yes, I've just pulled these out of the oven and they look yummy. In fact, they've just been road tested by one of my daughters. There you go. You see those?
They're so good, aren't they?
Oh, delicious. So I'm going to leave these to cool now because obviously you can't put chocolate on them when they're warm. So actually I might even do the chocolate tomorrow morning and just leave them to cool overnight and then, but yes, that will be useful for this weekend. We've got people staying over, so
Job done.
yeah.
Well done, Els. Well done. I'm going to
Thank
quickly come back to Emma. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Emma, how are you getting on?
It's all going on here behind the scenes. I'm going to give you a little flavour of what we've got. We've got beautifully creamed spinach in the Thermomix bowl here, just keeping very warm. But I've blitzed it and you can see the bright green. It needs just scooping out and serving. So that's ready to go. And also
15 minutes.
The lamb cutlets now are have been pan fried lightly with the Parmesan crust. So what I'm doing is I'm browning the Parmesan crust so you get this lovely crispy outer, and I can see that the meat inside is perfectly done. With the 12 minutes that it cooked for on the recipe, it would be medium rare, and they suggested do it for 2 more minutes to make it. It would have been medium, and to make it slightly more well cooked, do it for 14 minutes. And we've got these beautiful crispy potatoes that have just come out of the oven. But so what I thought I would do is plate it up, and I should be able to have a plate to show you it just before we close off from the Zoom.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Perfect.
What else needs to be done? Sarah, are you finished? I think Sarah's finished.
Yeah. Hi, I am finished. What I meant to say about the gougères was that I'll go on to me. Hang on. Oops. There we go. Can you see me yet? No.
No, switch it round.
Oh,
See you
hang on. There we go. Yeah. So what I was going to say was that the gougères, if I was making if I wasn't doing a dinner party, I probably would have done Brazilian cheese puffs. I don't know if anybody's made those, but they're very similar, except the flour is tapioca flour, and it's much easier than gougères because you just literally throw it all in, and there's no piping. You put them in little muffin tins. I think I have done them on a Zoom once, and they are delicious with soup and very easy. But you can't fill them. That's the difference, because the gougères are hollow inside. If I was doing them for a supper party on the day, then the profiteroles, then I would probably make them the day before, and then I would just crisp them up in the oven before I filled them, so that you get that nice crisp finish. But also with the gougères, you could fill them with smoked salmon, with tuna tapenade. the goat's cheese and honey. So they're really, really versatile and make great little canapes. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, thank you. Brilliant. So we are 8:27. We've got 3 minutes to go. I can see Emma's sort of dishing up now, so we'll come back to her in a minute. But hopefully all of those recipes are useful to you. I have literally just tried this duck and it is amazing. And when we did it for our class in Aylesbury, the feedback we got from a chef was that it was better than he had had at Claridge's. So I think when you are going for that really, really fancy precision meal that you really want to push the boat out, I do recommend sous vide duck. Hopefully you've enjoyed all the recipes. We will be back soon. We've got nothing in the pipeline, so if there's something that you are interested in seeing, do let us know. We've got the TM7. The offer for February is that if you buy in February, you get a Zoom cooking class with Aldo Zilli. So that is an amazing opportunity and something that we cannot buy or book onto. So if you know anybody interested in a TM7, if you're looking to upgrade to a TM7, you know where to find us. Emma, you're looking ready. We're coming to
Yeah. Okay, I'm ready. Have you got me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay, so I've got, I'm so delighted to be able to present you. I've done 6 of these lamb cutlets. I think we're going to be eating them for the rest of the week. But you can see the potatoes, they're served on a bed of potatoes, the smashed spuds, and you've got the perfectly creamed spinach at the sides there. So you can see that within an hour, it's perfectly possible to produce a delicious restaurant quality food to eat in your own home. And you'll need to persuade your butcher to trim the cutlets as I got him to do them for me, because he thought I was taking off a bit too much of the meat and that it was a shame. But they're lovely sized cutlets, and that will make it's more than a meal for 2. So it's a great one. Give it a go.
That looks amazing. That looks really, really great. And I think what you've shown is an all-in-one recipe. So there are recipes where you can have, and you can even have 3/4 recipes all in one. So if you don't have the confidence that perhaps you want, just follow the Cookidoo recipes. Equally, if you want to pick and choose recipes from different bits and pieces, you can do that as well, as we showed you with the various duck and the blackberry sauce. Lovely things to start off with and lovely things to finish off with.
You want me to slice into it to see what it looks like? Should we have a little look? Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's beautifully pink in the middle. It's come away from the crust now, but I don't know if you can see that, but it's beautifully pink in the middle. Can you see it, Jane?
Yeah, that looks really nice.
So yeah, super. Sorry to interrupt there.
Perfect. No, that's perfect. I think we've shared most of the links. If there's something that we haven't shared, just message us. We're all on social media. Hopefully, you know where we are. If you need any help, let us know. If you've got any ideas for future Zooms, let us know. And we are so grateful for you all joining us tonight. It's amazing to see so many of you online. We love these little sessions where we get to connect with you, even if it is only over Zoom. So have a lovely evening. Stay dry. And we'll see you soon.
See you
Thanks,
soon.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.